Due to its failure to repatriate cash it received from ticket sales in Nigeria, Middle Eastern mega carrier Emirates Airlines has declared that it will cut back on its flights to Nigeria beginning August the 15th. In order to alleviate ongoing losses it's suffering as a result of payments being frozen in Nigeria, the airline announced it would be forced to cut flights from Dubai to Lagos from 11 times per week to 7 per week. Still on aviation, in addition to 2 scheduled carriers ceasing operations, the local aviation industry in Nigeria as a whole may be facing a shutdown of operations due to a gradual loss of fleet capacity that has virtually eliminated schedule reliability. Findings revealed that 60 out of the 98 listed aircraft grounded, while 8 active airlines operated at a combined fleet capacity of 38.7% while waiting for foreign exchange profits to cover their maintenance costs. Joining us now to discuss further is Sindy Foster. He's a principal managing partner at Avaero Capital Partners. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to start off with the Emirates. What do you make of their announcement and what do you think the impact is going to be?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. The Emirates decision is, to be honest, not unexpected. The situation has become quite dire. They are obviously a commercial business and they've been trying as best as they can to repatriate their funds. So it's completely expected that they would take a commercial decision in the interests of their business as to how they proceed going forward. Do
you think it's possible other airlines have done the same but just haven't put out a press release like the Emirates did?
I don't think the others will have reduced their schedules without consultation with the Ministry of Aviation. It would have to be an agreement in terms of reducing, at least they need to notify. What the other airlines have done is remove the lower class, lower price fares from their inventories. So that has resulted in an increase in fares across the board for international flights.
Oh, wow.
I have heard that it's not just the typically foreign airlines, but some African airlines are also making that choice going forward.
Emirates said in their press release they offered to pay for jet fuel in Naira, but the supplier refused. Is the supplier, I guess, justified in that decision? What do you think?
I find it a bit odd that they can not agree to Naira pricing, given that the CBN has a policy of domestication of sales in Nigeria.
Right.
So the fact that they are selling in dollars actually I think is a bit of a strange situation that the foreign airlines, I think everybody who's involved should be looking at how they can solve the problem, not looking at how they can, protect themselves while decimating the industry and increasing costs for passengers. I think everybody has a role to play to do what is necessary to salvage the industry.
Speaking of the industry, the Guardian newspaper carried out an investigation. There's, of course, the whole list of issues that we'll put up, I guess, facing the aviation industry. You look at, so here we go. So jet fuel's price hike, FX liquidity issues, 30% of air travel is underserved. Airlines have 38.8% fleet capacity. Is crisis an exaggeration, or is that an appropriate word for what's going on right now?
It's as much of a crisis as COVID was, in my view. The likely impact of what we are facing is critical for the industry, so crisis is the right word.
Yeah.
It's not a crisis of safety. I don't want anybody to be alarmed because obviously the NCAA as regulator will make sure that the travelling public are safe, as they have done in the case of Dana. They've requested a review of their operating processes. So I think that it's a financial crisis which will lead to a travel crisis, because if we have less airlines, that means that the cost of travel is going to increase.
Gotcha, because the supply is reduced and then that demand will outstrip it. Okay, so you look at stats like that, the fleet capacity and passengers being underserved, and with Aeros, not flying, as you said, Dana also say, safety, financial reasons mostly, more airlines under threat of possibly not operating going forward.
Absolutely. It's not an isolated situation, because the forex scarcity and high price is something that affects all airlines. The fuel scarcity and high price is something that affects all airlines. All the airlines were pretty much, decimated in a run-up to this situation. We had COVID which impacted them. Not just the local issues, but we inherited international issues because of the closure of borders, the reduction of international travellers that came for Christmas and January last year. So they didn't go into this high fuel price with lots of money in their coffers. So the fact that, you know, since January, February, March, we've seen aviation fuel increasing exponentially. We've seen a similar thing with Forex. It's really uncertain, and you can't really plan as a business for these types of fair price increases, because typically aviation fuel was 30 to 40% of the operating costs of airlines. But we've heard from AON that it's as much as 85% at the moment. So if you're spending 85% of your revenues on fuel, you haven't got that much left to actually operate.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what solutions are there, short term and long term, you think?
In the short term, I have a bit of an issue with the launch of the national carrier, which we are hearing is imminently coming. I don't think that's going to help the situation, because it's going to add to the scarcity of fuel. More competition for aviation fuel is going to increase the cost and reduce the availability. Same with Forex. So I think in the short term, given that it's the government who are launching this, in the interest of the industry, I think they should rethink launching now and potentially postpone until they've done an impact assessment of how this is going to impact the industry. We can add 3 aircraft, which is what they're coming, and lose 10.
Right.
So,
Gotcha.
you know, we really need to be serious about what we're doing, not just now, but look at what the impact is going to be. You know, I think that the airlines themselves need to work on increasing their revenue sources.
Okay.
So there are certain things that they're not doing in terms of additional ancillary revenues, for example. They really need to look at their costs. They need to minimize the costs everywhere they can. I also have an issue with the preference for foreign pilots, which is obviously adding to the cost of operations. So I think every airline needs to look at their internal cost structure and minimize their costs, maximize their revenue, so that they can push more towards the Forex costs and the fuel costs than they currently can.
Only got a minute to go. Can Nigerian Airlines replicate some of the revenue streams that's done overseas? Is that a possibility?
They certainly can. Yeah. So one of the things which they could do is reduce the weight in terms of baggage and charge for excess. Because not everybody needs to travel with, you know, everything, including the kitchen sink.
Right.
That actually adds to the weight of the aircraft, which adds to the amount of fuel that you need. They can do things like charging for early check-in. They can have priority boarding, charge for that. They can incorporate things like lounges, fast tracking, but for a fee. There's plenty of things that they can do. They can offer actual meals rather than these little boxes of things that nobody particularly wants. If they give the consumer the choice, and the consumer is paying for that choice, it's extra incremental revenue for themselves.
Fantastic. It's always good to end on a note with solutions, because there's a whole lot going on. Sindy Foster, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time.